Bengals beat the Browns 17-16. The Browns outgained the Bengals 327 to 141 and had the ball for nearly 36 minutes, but it wasn't enough. And this is why you need to find your quarterback. I don't know why y'all fooling with Joe Flacco. Y'all know Joe Flacco's not taking y'all anywhere. He's not your quarterback of your future. If I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose trying to find out who my quarterback is. That's just me. I don't care. I don't care if it's Gabriel. I don't care if it's Shedeur. I don't care who it is. I just know Joe Flacco ain't your quarterback.
It don't matter who was at the quarterback. It could have been Patrick Mahomes. It could have been.
No.
It could have been Lamar Jackson.
He missed the field. You missed the field goal and you missed the PAT. So don't say that.
Let me finish. Let me cook. The Bengals won today. The Bengals won today 17-16. The football gods were on our side. That's what happened today. Every time the Bengals play the Cleveland Browns, the games are always like this. It's sloppy. A lot of people look at the stat line. Oh my God, Chase, he didn't have that many catches. Look how many yards he had. They look at T. Higgins. He didn't have many catches. Look how many yards he had. Anytime you play the Browns defense, I've said this countless times on Nightcap, and people laugh at me. Oh, the Browns suck. The Browns have a very, very, very good defense.
The Cleveland Browns just outgained the Cincinnati Bengals by nearly 200 yards. They held the ball for 36 minutes, ran 22 more plays, doubled them up on yardage, and still lost. Let that sink in. You dominate a game in every measurable way, and you walk away with a 17-16 loss. That, right there, is the story of the Cleveland Browns. And the conversation on Nightcap with Shannon Sharpe and Ochocinco? Oh, it got spicy. Because here's the truth. Joe Flacco, the veteran quarterback who has been holding the reins for Cleveland, isn't it? Shannon made it plain. If I'm going to lose, I'd rather lose trying to find out who my quarterback is. He doesn't care if it's Dillon Gabriel. He doesn't care if it's Shedeur Sanders. He just knows it cannot be Joe Flacco. And the way this game played out only fuels that fire. Now, let's be clear. Flacco's stat line wasn't awful at first glance. 31 completions on 45 attempts, 290 yards, a touchdown, but 2 interceptions. Those picks are killers, and when you pair them with missed field goals and a blown extra point, it's the kind of sloppy execution that gets you beat in the AFC North. And here's the irony. Cincinnati didn't exactly light it up either. Joe Burrow, last season's league leader in passing yards and touchdowns, finished with just 141 total offensive yards for his team. That's it. 141 yards. Normally, if you're an NFL team with that little production, you don't win. Shannon kept hammering that point. How many times can a team put up 141 yards and actually come out victorious? Almost never. But the Bengals did it, because the Browns handed it to them. And that's the frustration. You've got one of the best defenses in football. Myles Garrett wrecking offensive lines, Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome locking down receivers, a unit built to suffocate even the best offenses. And still, your offense can't capitalize. Ochocinco, being the former receiver he is, jumped in and said, "We gotta help our quarterback out." But the problem is bigger than dropped passes. It's about direction. It's about future. And right now, Flacco represents neither. So let me ask you, how long do you keep riding with a 39-year-old quarterback who everyone, including your own team legends, know isn't taking you anywhere? How long do you delay the inevitable? Shouldn't you start looking at the young guns now? Maybe even hand the keys to a Shedeur Sanders and see what the kid can do? This loss wasn't just about missed kicks. It was about missed opportunities to finally turn the page in Cleveland. Because here's the thing. This defense is too good to waste. They made Joe Burrow look human, kept Jamar Chase and T. Higgins bottled up, forced a slugfest. This is exactly the kind of game a playoff team should win. And instead, Cleveland finds themselves wondering, yet again, about their quarterback. And let's talk about how divisional games hit different. Shannon and Ocho kept bringing it up. When AFC North rivals clash, it's ugly, it's gritty, it's back and forth. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Cleveland, they know each other's playbooks like married couples who can finish each other's sentences. And that showed up again. The Browns did almost everything right defensively, but in this division, the team that makes the least mistakes usually wins. And Cleveland made more. But the focus of this debate wasn't just about one ugly loss. It was about Cleveland's future. Shannon said it bluntly, "I don't know why y'all fooling with Joe Flacco." And he's not wrong. If this franchise truly wants to break the cycle, they need to figure out what's next. And that brings us right back to Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel, the names on everyone's lips. Now imagine this. Shedeur Sanders, son of Dion, stepping into Cleveland with that swagger, that arm talent, that composure he showed at Colorado. Pair him with that defense, give him time to grow, and suddenly you're building toward something real. That's the future Shannon and Ocho were pointing toward. But here's where it gets tricky. Ochocinco wasn't completely ready to bury Flacco. He reminded people that those interceptions came off tipped balls, that receivers have to make plays too. He called it helping your quarterback out. But even Ocho couldn't deny the truth. This Browns team, right now, is stuck. So let's hit the question again for you watching. If you're Cleveland, do you keep rolling with a stopgap veteran, or do you take the leap of faith and start auditioning your future? Because Shannon Sharpe made it clear, he'd rather go down swinging with a young gun than go nowhere slowly with Joe Flacco. This isn't just about one bad game. This is about a franchise deciding what kind of story it wants to write.
It's Joe Flacco, 31 of 45, 290, a touchdown, 2 picks.
Yeah. We had some drops. I'm talking about we. I'm sorry. I don't play for the Browns.
2 picks.
My receivers in general. My receivers had some drops. We got to fix those things. We got to. My receivers, regardless of what team you play for, we got to help our quarterback out. We got to help our quarterback out. That's it.
Yeah. But Cleveland, and see, these are the type of games, Ocho, that gives you confidence. These are the kind of games you got to win.
Yeah.
You can't lose a game like this. You miss a PAT, you miss a field goal. I mean, this is what's frustrating. Because if I'm on that team, I know Joe Flacco's not taking us anywhere. I know that. Everybody knows that.
He wasn't that bad today, Unc.
He was too.
I'm a Bengals fan. He wasn't that bad.
He had 2 picks.
Unc, the picks were catchable balls that popped up in the air.
How about this here? The Bengals had 159 yards.
The debate heated up even more as they talked about just how good Cleveland's defense is. Ocho mentioned he talked with Bengals coach Zach Taylor, who flat out admitted the Browns are one of the few teams in the league built to shut down high-powered offenses. Their front four? Nasty. Their corners? Elite. And Myles Garrett? Shannon said it best. Nobody has an answer for him. The man was out there Euro-stepping 300-pound linemen like a point guard, crashing into Burrow, wreaking havoc from every alignment on the field. And that's the tragedy here. You've got defensive personnel most teams would kill for. You've got a culture on that side of the ball that screams championship caliber. But until you figure out the quarterback position, you're not going anywhere. And the longer you wait, the more frustrated this locker room gets, the more wasted seasons you pile up. So let me ask you again, Browns fans, are you ready to see Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland brown and orange? Are you ready for a kid with upside, with poise, to take over and grow with this defense? Or are you going to keep settling for not that bad from Joe Flacco? Because in the AFC North, not that bad isn't good enough. Not against Burrow. Not against Lamar. Not against Tomlin's Steelers. You need greatness, or at least the chance at it. And right now, that chance lies in the future, not the past. This isn't about Joe Flacco's past. It's about Cleveland's future. And the clock is ticking. So let's zoom in on this. Joe Flacco dropped back 45 times. 45. And still, Cleveland put up just 16 points. Think about that. 16 points despite dominating time of possession, doubling Cincinnati in yardage, and winning on third down conversions. That tells you all you need to know. Efficiency wasn't there. Finishing drives wasn't there. Leadership that inspires belief? Not there. And this is why Shannon Sharpe sounded fed up. He's looking at a defense that gave Burrow hell all day long and still walked away empty-handed. You don't waste a performance like that. Not when Myles Garrett is blowing up protections, not when your secondary is clamping receivers to the point Ja'Marr Chase looks like an average wideout. And yet, because the offense couldn't get out of its own way, Cleveland finds themselves sitting at 0-1, already behind in the AFC North race. The Browns don't have a quarterback problem. They have a quarterback crisis. And Ocho tried to soften the blow. He said, Flacco wasn't that bad. He wanted to point out that interceptions bouncing off receivers' hands aren't always the quarterback's fault. He wanted to remind Shannon that divisional games in the North are always ugly, always decided by inches. But Shannon wasn't buying it. Because when you've been in those locker rooms, when you've seen seasons slip away because you held on too long to the wrong guy under center, you know better. So here's a question for you watching. Would you rather live with a young quarterback's mistakes, knowing he's gaining experience, or keep patching up the position with aging vets, hoping lightning strikes? Which path gives you real hope? Because think about it, Shedeur Sanders doesn't just represent youth. He represents energy, swagger, a belief system. The kind of belief Cleveland has been starving for since the days of Bernie Kosar. Shannon knows it, Ocho knows it, and deep down, Browns fans know it too. And yet, here they are, clinging to Joe Flacco because he's safe. Safe doesn't win the AFC North. Safe doesn't beat Lamar Jackson. Safe doesn't get you past Burrow. Safe doesn't topple Mike Tomlin, who hasn't had a losing season in 17 years. Safe gets you 16 points in a loss where your defense played lights out. Cleveland doesn't need safe. They need bold. And let's not ignore what the Bengals pulled off here. They scored just 17 points. They averaged less than 3 yards a play. And still, they walked away with the W. That's what winners do. They find a way. And Shannon called it straight. The football gods were smiling on Cincinnati this week. But how many more times will the Browns have to watch games slip away like this before they make the move everyone knows is coming? And more importantly, how much longer will guys like Myles Garrett tolerate it? That's the question hanging in the air. Because if you're wasting Garrett's prime, if you're wasting Denzel Ward's shutdown ability, if you're wasting this defensive unit, frustration will boil. Players want to win. And they know when the missing piece is sitting at quarterback. Let me hit you with a reality check. Cleveland's defense is good enough to compete for the division. They're good enough to make Burrow, Lamar, and Kenny Pickett uncomfortable every time they line up. But until you solve quarterback, all that dominance is a house built on sand. And Flacco? He's a temporary patch on a roof that's been leaking for decades. You can't build a dynasty on duct tape. Now, Ochocinco reminded everyone of how tough AFC North games are. He said it's like being married. You know each other's moves, finish each other's sentences, anticipate everything. That's why the Bengals looked so ordinary. That's why Chase and Higgins barely got rolling. But in the end, who made fewer mistakes? Cincinnati. And that's all that mattered. Shannon, though, wouldn't let Cleveland off the hook. He knows this was a game you have to win if you're serious about contending. You control time of possession, you convert on third down, you double your opponent's yardage, and you still blow it? That's not bad luck. That's bad quarterbacking. And it's why he's banging the table for Shedeur Sanders or Dillon Gabriel. Not in the future. Now, let's pause and ask, if Shedeur Sanders was under center, would the Browns have won this game? Would a young quarterback's energy and creativity have been enough to tilt the outcome? Or would it have been another growing pain moment? And here's where the conversation gets spicy. Shannon kept pressing. Cleveland, y'all gotta find a quarterback. Over and over, he hammered it. Because the rest of this roster is too good to keep waiting. Ocho even agreed in the end, Flacco isn't the future. Everyone sees it. Everyone knows it. The only question left is when the Browns front office will admit it. The Browns don't need more time. They need a decision. And let's talk about Myles Garrett for a second, because his performance deserves more than a side note. This man was terrorizing Joe Burrow all game. Wide 9, 3 technique, stunts up the middle, didn't matter. He bent edges like a gymnast, bull rushed like a freight train, and still had the quickness to Eurostep Orlando Brown, one of the league's better tackles. Shannon and Ocho couldn't stop laughing at how unfair it looked. A man that size shouldn't be able to move like that. And that's the point. You've got the kind of defensive cornerstone most franchises dream of. Pair him with a quarterback who can grow, and you've got a window. But keep wasting Sundays with Joe Flacco, and all Garrett's dominance does is make losses sting worse. So let me ask again, are Browns fans ready for Shedeur? Ready for Dillon Gabriel? Or are you content watching this defense rot away in games that should have been wins? Because here's the reality, the AFC North runs through Cincinnati and Baltimore. Ocho joked about Baltimore dropping 1,700 points on Cleveland, but there's truth in the joke. If you don't have a quarterback who can trade blows with Burrow or Lamar, you're not winning the division. Period. And that's why Shannon was so blunt. He said it outright. If you're going to lose, lose while finding your quarterback. Stop wasting time. Stop clinging to the past. Because Joe Flacco is not your quarterback. The future doesn't wait for you. Either you grab it, or you watch it pass you by. So here we are. The Browns' defense is elite. The Bengals found a way to win ugly. Joe Flacco put up numbers that looked decent but meant nothing. And Shedeur Sanders' name keeps coming up. Not just as a dream, but as a real possibility. And I'll leave you with this. How many more Sundays do you want to waste? How many more 36-minute time of possession games do you want to lose? How many more elite defensive performances are you going to watch evaporate because the guy under center can't finish drives? Because in Cleveland, history has repeated itself for decades. And the only way to break that cycle is to take a leap. Shedeur Sanders. Dillon Gabriel. Somebody new. Somebody who represents possibility. Because Joe Flacco represents the past. And Cleveland has lived in the past long enough. The Browns don't need to manage games. They need to change their future. So Browns fans, I'll ask you one final time. Are you ready for Shedeur Sanders? Or are you going to keep convincing yourselves that Joe Flacco is good enough? Because the truth is simple, good enough never is. And that's the truth from Gridiron Insights. The Browns can't keep waiting. The time for change is now. If you believe in Shedeur Sanders, if you believe it's time to build a real future in Cleveland, then you know what Shannon Sharpe was saying tonight. Don't forget to like this video, drop your thoughts in the comments, because I want to hear from you, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the fastest growing NFL community on YouTube. This is Gridiron Insights, signing off. Like and subscribe.